So far, this has been the worst bull run in crypto history. A lot of people think that the bull run is over and we are now in a bear market, that a recession is coming. In today's video, I'm going to cover why this could be a huge buying opportunity or your last chance to get out. So hit that like button and let's jump into it. All right, today we're going to jump into Bitcoin, the crypto markets, why I think this could be either a huge buying opportunity or your last chance to get out. Let's jump into it here. All right, so the crypto total market cap currently is at 2.5 trillion. We are down significantly from just a few months ago. Bitcoin at 76,000 as of this recording. Right now, things are pretty bearish, so I'm expecting us to potentially have a further dip here. Ethereum under $1,500. A lot of people said, well, Ethereum's never going to get to under $1,500 again, or at least not this cycle, and a lot of people are worried about whether or not we're going to actually have any kind of bull run from here or if we're just going to keep going down. Let's jump into a few things here. I know a lot of people out there talking about the M2 money supply, and that still is into play. If you take a look here at the M2 money supply versus Bitcoin, with the lag that's injected into it by about 12 weeks, if you look at this here, it's still following it. Now, if things play by this accordingly, we should start seeing Bitcoin move up and hit new all-time highs sometime in the middle or end of June potentially here. Obviously, this is not guaranteed because there's no guarantee that Bitcoin is going to continue to follow the M2 money supply, but so far it has been following it to a T for over the last year or so. It's following this during the time of the market where we have quantitative tightening. It's been following it even with quantitative tightening. We haven't had any real quantitative easing yet. We've had kind of a pause on quantitative tightening, but we're still, the market is, they're still reacting to the Trump tariffs. There's a lot of negativity in the markets with the Trump tariffs. Trump has doubled down as of this recording on his tariffs with China with 104%. I believe it's 104% tariff on China. We'll see how that plays out. So far, some of the countries have come forward and are making deals with Trump to drop their tariffs to a zero tariff, where United States drops their tariffs, they drop their tariffs. We'll see how many other countries fall into this and make a deal with Trump over this. I have a feeling this is going to go on for a while. I really think the market is potentially overreacting from this. Really, what I think he's trying to play here is 4D chess to try to get some of these countries that have been tariffing the United States since World War II to lower or drop their tariffs completely so it can be kind of an even playing field. And I know there's arguments for both sides of the coin out there, but Trump and his administration feel like the United States have been ripped off for so long. It's time for the other countries to play fair and even with the United States and drop their tariffs, and we'll drop our tariffs and play evenly with you. We'll see what happens with all this, but right now it's shaking up the markets. The stock market is down like 20% over the last week or so. Actually, the hugest dip we've seen since the COVID crisis. I think the markets are overreacting a little bit. Trump made it very clear in his campaign that he was going to put tariffs on these countries that had tariffs on us. And Trump is actually one of those people that sticks to what he says he's going to do for the most part. There's roadblocks out there for some of it, and he's still only a couple months into his presidency, but so far he has been following through with everything that he's said so far. We'll see how this plays out. We'll see if we get some negotiations on the table with China and the EU and all those countries out there to hopefully reduce tariffs against the United States, and then Trump will drop his tariffs and hopefully things will shake out. But right now things are going to be a little bit crazy in the markets, and I don't expect this to turn around too much in the near future, but I do at some point expect this to turn around. Let's take a look at a few things here that I think are critical for this. So if you look at the ETH BTC and then Benjamin Cohen, if you haven't heard of Benjamin Cohen, I recommend that you watch his videos, his series. He always has these video series called Into the Cryptoverse. He's talked about Ethereum versus Bitcoin pricing for a while, and he's talked about how in the past Ethereum will always come home, and right now it's in what his zone that he calls home for Ethereum, where it bottoms out in its price against Bitcoin. It has actually gone into that range. That doesn't mean it couldn't go lower against Bitcoin. Now, that could mean Bitcoin's price increases and Ethereum's price doesn't increase, or it could mean that Bitcoin drops and Ethereum drops even more from here. We could see some more downside on Ethereum. It doesn't mean that the pain is over, but it has reached the zone where he thinks it's a point to where it wouldn't be too much more dropping of Ethereum in price against Bitcoin's value, where things should start turning around and we should start seeing a potential alt season here. Now, I don't think any alt season is going to happen until we get this tariff situation out of the mix. But I want to show you a video here that I think is important for all of you to watch. It's a long video. It's a lot of information, but the information that they're giving in this video is very educational as far as how all of the markets work in the world with China and the EU and the United States, and how the liquidity cycle works, how the weakening of the US dollar works, and how strengthening of other currencies out there against the US dollar causes things to happen in the market that can really turn things around bullish in a quick way. So this is a video here by Raoul Pal. I've talked about him on my channel many times, but he has Julian Battel, I think is how you pronounce his name, on here, and they're analyzing several different things in the markets, several different charts. There are some charts that they show on this video that I think are very critical for people to watch, and according to what the information that they have, they've actually ran this information and all of their chart information through AI, and AI has agreed with their analysis that things are actually becoming the perfect storm to set up for a major bull run to happen here in crypto in the second half of this year. Now, hopefully this is true, but I want you to watch their video. It is like an hour long, but at least watch like the, from the middle half of it to the second half. Watch, you can kind of scan through and watch parts of it. I'm going to play a quick part of this video for you guys, just so you guys can get a feel for some of the information that they're covering, because I think it's important. They think that some of the things that Trump is doing right now are actually the right thing to do to get the markets going again, and it's kind of like a reset on the markets to get things to really take off from here, and that they're intentionally weakening the US dollar to cause other things to happen in the markets and the liquidity cycle globally to really reset the economy and for things to take off.
This is not something the Fed that we should be worried about. When the Fed's always late to cut, and they're always late to hike. When you want to worry about the Fed and a more hawkish stance, so starting a rate hiking cycle, is typically when services inflation, which is what Raoul just talked about, starts to rise, which is a function of unit wage costs, so wages rising later in the cycle. And that's just nowhere to be seen in our lead indicators for the time being. So again, just wanted to point that out. So this is what we're seeing in inflation currently, and Trump breaking the business cycle. Trump didn't break the business cycle. He's created this slowdown, but it has nothing to do with what's happened this year. It has everything to do with what happened last year.
Even Scott Bessent said the things you're worried about now, you won't be worried about soon, because he knows that financial conditions are easing so fast.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a dramatic easing in financial conditions, and we haven't really got going yet.
That's right. So that's why, again, this is why we wanted to put this out, because it's kind of all, coming together, and with so much noise. Right?
So, Julian, what does this start to mean for markets? Because markets are getting utterly terrified and are creating inflation narratives, recession narratives, broken business cycle narratives. What is the markets telling us right now?
Sentiment and positioning.
Maybe I've seen this deck before. Maybe I know.
I think you have seen this deck before. Well, let me talk about that.
So I highly recommend you watch that video. They're basically saying that the Trump administration knows exactly what they're doing. They're playing their cards intentionally to set the markets up for a huge, massive boost towards, the end of this year and into 2026, and that they've played these cards before the first time around the Trump administration, and now Trump has the right team in place to actually implement a lot of these things. That what they're saying here is they're setting this up intentionally for a massive recovery and kind of a reset of the economy, with the U.S. economy and the U.S. dollar, to really supercharge things. They also talk about in here how they know exactly what's going on with China and the yen, and there's a lot of things in the background that's going on with China that's not being talked about in the news, that the Trump administration is very well aware of, and they know that China has a lot of debt, and they kind of have China where they want them, the situation that they want them with the tariffs and everything else, that they're putting a real squeeze on them right now that the media is really not talking about. So highly recommend that you watch this video. Hopefully what they're saying actually comes to fruition. But if you look at all the charts that they cover in the video and the lagging indicators that are coming up here in the few months, there's a lot of things that are following these charts to a T, where things look like they're going to really turn around here in the upcoming months. So they think personally that this is a perfect buying opportunity for things to, to when they do recover, to have a massive recovery and extreme gains from here. There's also a few other things I want to show you real quick here, so let's take a look at that. So BlackRock, Larry Fink sees a buying opportunity during the market sell-off. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink said stocks may have much further to go down during the current market sell-off on the back of the tariff-fueled recession worries, but said that the turmoil presents a chance to purchase deeply discounted equities. And he said when you see a 20% market decline in 3 days, obviously it has significant impacts, and the ripple effects of potential of tariffs is going to be long-standing. But he's saying here overall he feels like the market is overreacting and that this would be a great buying opportunity, because when the market does recover like they talked about, you could potentially see some really huge returns out of this, because the market at some point is going to recover. Also, if you look here, BlackRock has invested heavily in Ethereum. There's other people that are invested heavily in Ethereum as well. The Trump administration is heavily invested in Ethereum. He's saying here that basically when you look at their experience, take Builder as an example, there's no question that the blockchain that they would start their tokenization on would be Ethereum. So they're talking about building tokenized treasuries and other items that are tokenized. BlackRock is talking about using Ethereum for their tokenization for this. So this is massive. They are heavily investing into Ethereum. So I think Ethereum is very undervalued right now, and it doesn't mean it won't come down lower in price from where it's at now. But if you try to time the bottom of the markets, you can really get burned that way. I still think that Ethereum will do well this cycle once things turn around. Right now things are looking bad for Ethereum, but at some point I think this market will turn around. Ethereum could be a big investment for it. Now, I do have some Ethereum in my 401k. I've been buying the Ethereum ETF and adding that, a little bit of it, to my 401k. I have a lot of Bitcoin in my retirement plan through the ETFs because it's just kind of a cool way where you can invest in it for long term. That was one of the advantages of having the ETF. There's also self-custody and things where you can actually just buy it, of course, on the exchanges, and you can actually just self-custody it if you like. There's many ways of doing it. With Ethereum, you can stake your Ethereum and all that. You got to kind of weigh out the risk and reward for staking it. All right, so who else is heavily invested in Ethereum? Well, of course, the Trump administration and the World Liberty Financial, their crypto firm is heavily invested in Ethereum. If you look at the chart here, ETH is actually like 23% of their portfolio, and then Wrapped BTC is about 16% of their portfolio. Now, they have about 75 million in their balance right now. They invested this over the last several months. They've been investing in this. If you take a look here, they had quite a bit of their crypto in this chart here. Then they sold a bunch of it here in the beginning of February, and they sold a lot of their holdings, like about 3/4 of their holdings in the beginning of February, because they probably saw with the tariffs coming that crypto is probably going to dump. So they did. It looks like, at least according to this chart, I don't know if this is 100% accurate. This is what I was able to find as far as what is supposedly in their wallet. According to this chart, they sold about 75% of their holdings in early February, probably knowing that the Trump tariffs, once they go into effect, that things could be very negative for crypto. They probably wouldn't risk off at that point and dump some of their holdings, but they still have $75 million in crypto, and a big portion of that is Ethereum, 23% of their portfolio. They're also invested in Wrapped BTC, like I said, USDT, Tron, some USDC, ENA, Athena. I'm not too familiar with that one either. And I'm not familiar with Move or Movement. And then Mantle, they have some Mantle, of course, some Avalanche as well, and Ondo, and just a tiny bit of Chainlink. I'm not sure if they had more earlier or not, but these are interesting plays, this ENA and Move, so those might be something to look into, see what those projects are about, because obviously if the Trump administration is invested in it, there must be a reason for it. And if you saw the post from Eric Trump a while back, he said it feels like a good time to invest in ETH. So they might have some things planned for Ethereum coming in the future here with crypto. So take a look at this, guys. But me personally, I do think at some point these markets are going to turn around and you're going to see crypto scream and take off, because everything is set up potentially for crypto to do well once the markets are in the right condition. Right now, they're not in the right conditions, and everybody's talking about selling and being scared. That's the time when you really want to buy. Sure, it would have been great to sell before the dump, but if you didn't sell before the dump, I'm not selling right now at the bottom. I think that's absolutely stupid to sell now. I'm going to hold my crypto and try to add to my portfolio if I get any extra funds, try to take advantage of these lower prices. So hopefully once this thing does turn around, things can turn bullish and we can make some real extreme profits later on. But obviously this is just my own thoughts and my own ideas on what I'm doing personally. I'm not telling you that you should go buy crypto or buy the stock market or anything like that. Historically, when things are in the most fear is the best time to buy, but that doesn't mean things can't get lower from here. But, you know, do your own research and your own due diligence. I'm just showing you what the big investors are doing. They're buying, and, you know, right now with these low prices, maybe an opportunity to pick up some crypto at cheap prices. So when things do turn around, hopefully, you know, we can make some big profits. But like I said, that's not financial advice. I'm not telling you to go do that. Do your own research and your own due diligence, guys. But I'd really appreciate if you subscribe to my channel, hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm. We'll see you on the next video.